Most people don't remember the day UNICEF was created. It was 1946, and the United Nations General Assembly wanted to provide emergency food and health care to children in countries devastated by World War II. UNICEF is still around today. The UN program furnishes long-term humanitarian and developmental assistance to millions of children and mothers in more than 190 countries. This week on Full Frame, we'll meet three of UNICEF's celebrity ambassadors. They'll tell us how they use their fame and fortune to advocate on behalf of the world's most vulnerable citizens. I'm Mike Walter, coming to you from the heart of New York City's vibrant Times Square. Let's take it full frame. Angelique Kidjo is a Grammy Award-winning singer, songwriter, and activist. Her creativity and unique musical style has captivated audiences all around the world. She combines elements of diverse genres. In fact, this Benin-born artist is widely known for pushing her creativity to the next level. Universally regarded as one of the world's most influential African artists, Angelique has used her global status as a performer as a platform for change. In 2002, she was named a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador. 5 years later, in 2007, she founded the Batonga Foundation. That's a nonprofit to provide secondary and higher education for girls in Africa. Angelique also advocates for a number of other causes, including human rights and women's rights, and has worked in the communities of several countries across Africa. Along the way, she's captured about every award in existence. Recently, the World Economic Forum handed her the 2015 Crystal Award. The Guardian newspaper lists her as one of the top 100 most inspiring women in the world. There's a good chance you'll agree once you've had a chance to listen to her. She joins us now to share her story about music and activism. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
100 most inspiring. Just talking to your husband, probably 100 most exhausting, too. I'm just listening to your schedule. You're talking to us today, but later you're going to be going and seeing this little band. Some people may have heard of them, and I think the singer himself sent a little invitation for you to come out and see. So what are you doing later this evening?
Later I'm going to see the U2. I love the whole band, and Bono is a friend of mine, of course, but I like a lot the way The Edge play the guitar. I like the combination of their music, actually. You know, it's rock and roll, but you know the root is back in Ireland.
Yeah. Well, and the only reason why I bring that up, because it segues nicely into what you just finished. You were with the San Francisco Symphony. So this, I think, gives the full range and why you are so unique. I mean, your music is all over the place, and the stylings, it's very, very creative. I mean, what inspires you? And is there anything you won't try, I guess is the question.
Well, I think that music has given me, since I was a child, you know, in a home of 10 children and everybody having their own agenda, this and that, to center myself and to have a window to the world. And my father and mothers have made sure that we all have access to music, to sport, to book, and always urge us to go out there and meet other people. One of my father's phrases, your brain is not a plate of spaghetti, you gotta eat it. Just use it, and use it wise. It's a weapon, your ultimate weapon. If it's linked to your heart, whatever you do then touch people. So music for me is a language of peace, it's the language of love, and I was gifted with it when I was born. I didn't ask for it. And the voice for me is the mirror of the soul. If you are able to mirror anyone's souls through your voice, they can see themselves and empower themselves. I want people to jump. Come on, jump with me.
Are you constantly growing as an artist? Because, you know, we talked about how diverse you are, and the fact that you just performed with the symphony. I mean, it just seems like it's boundless.
Music is boundless, boundaryless, colorless, languageless, is universal. And as an artist, I like to challenge myself. I like to stretch my voice. I like to see how far I'm able to go and the possibilities. I'm a person of opportunities and possibilities. There might be walls around you. You might hit a wall. You might walk to difficulties. But as long as you are confident that you have the capacity of solving problems, you can make choices and stick to the choices and move forward. It's the key to everything. And music has brought me to that. When you're writing a song, right, you are inspired. And the song is there. The core of it is there in that inspiration. Now you have to nourish that inspiration. It comes in with the instrumentation. You have to know when you stop. Otherwise, that beauty or inspiration is diluted, is lost. So for me, music has taught me how to live with other people, how to do what I do with the symphonic orchestra in San Francisco. Those two worlds are not against each other. They are one world. There's only one music. And the music of my ancestors from Africa have penetrated and nourished and nurtured the music we listen to today everywhere on the planet.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel more of a responsibility because you have this platform to speak out? I mean, talk to me about your work with UNICEF and how you first got involved in this and how it's grown. I mean, talking to your husband, you've become a voice for the entire continent, whether you like it or not. In a sense, you are.
I didn't ask for it, but it becomes a fact. I think that becoming the person that I could not become this person because if my father and mom was not the person that they were. And also because my father always used to say to us, your skin color don't matter. You're a human being. Go out there, take the world by storm. Don't come back here and tell me you failed because you're black. That does not justify anything. And I've been empowered as a person to meet people. I don't care about your skin color, basically. It doesn't matter. It's just the envelope outside. As long as we can speak, we can disagree, but never in violence or hate. Working with UNICEF brought me all the time back to that simple core thing of how people that you are trying to help, if you don't bring them in the equation of the solutions and the problems, you're never going to succeed. That's why AIDS has failed in Africa for so long, because people come from the Western world, they mean well. Is it out of meaning well? Is it out of guilt? What it is? Are you helping the African people really take lead in their own life, or are you doing your own PR job, or you want to feel good about yourself? Because the people that you are helping, if you don't see them as a human being, or as human being with equal rights to you, that you have, that you don't see them as people, you don't talk to them and say, this is the problem you have in here. Tell us how it started. How can we help you? And let's hear from them before you start bringing your program with all your big money and doing that stuff. And that's the power of UNICEF. That's why UNICEF have been around for so long, because we work with local people. I mean, all the offices of UNICEF in Africa, you have local people that go on the field, that the people relate to. They speak the same language. We don't tell people what they have to do. When it comes to vaccination, how do we succeed? We train retired health worker to train other young kids. If they need a motorcycle, they have the motorcycle. With portable conservation of the vaccination, we provide all the things that is needed to get the vaccination to the farthest people ever. and make sure that every child and every mother that is pregnant have their vaccination. That's how we improve the life of the people. We just don't come and say, we're going to do this for you. Who are you to know what we want? Who are people that talk on our behalf? We don't have a voice. We have a brain, thank you. Don't speak for me. Absolutely not. I refuse that.
Well, that's one thing that obviously listening to you and the passion that you bring irritates you, and it's because you kind of, I'm telling you, instead of this engagement that you're describing, but there's another piece of this that I know frustrates you as well, which is these people basically identifying and saying, well, this is what this is all about. I mean, you've seen the continent as described, poverty and pain and war, and you know it so much differently than that. And I know that has to get to you.
Oh, it gets to me because it's just news and it's just regular business here, and people don't realize how they are killing the voice of the Africans and the will to trust us to work together. I mean, it's been going on for a long time. Why is the narratives of Africa is told by the one that enslaved us and colonized us? And we cannot get out of that narrative, because if we try to get out of it, we expose how unfair it has been for so long. And on the other hand, we Africans have to tell our story better. We have to come up with a way to tell this story. To tell the world it's not all about misery. It's not all about war. We don't manufacture weapons in Africa. How come you have so much weapons in Africa? Did anyone, it occur to anyone to ask the question, how did Boko Haram have their hand on the weapons? They come from Libya. Who sold those weapons to Gaddafi when he was in power? So it's just like the Western world is always like, oh, it's your choice. We don't have no choice in that. We didn't choose anything. You just give us what you think we need, as long as we are killing one another, and you can just take whatever you want out of it, it's okay. So for me, it becomes very annoying and disturbing that individuals that have no interest, economical interest in Africa, care more about the African people than the leaders of those rich countries. It's all about business. Okay, business is important. But today, what kind of business model we have for the world that put people at the center of the capitalism? Because without consumer, there's no business. I mean, any group, large group, whatever you sell, if you don't buy your product, you don't exist. So how do you make sure that the public that you are appealing to, the one you want to make business with, the poorest out of the poorest, how you lift them out of poverty for them to become your customer for the generation to come?
I want to ask you before we go, though, about your own foundation and the importance of education and your work there. I mean, what inspired you to do it, and the payoff, too? I'm sure it's really gratifying to be doing the type of thing that you're doing.
Well, I started this foundation because when I became a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador in 2002, my first question to UNICEF was, what does that mean? What am I supposed to do? I'm not good at small talk at cocktails. I can't do that. They say, what do you want to do? I say, education, girls' education. So I campaigned for the Millennium Development Goal for primary education throughout pretty much TV and radio recording PSAs. And I remember, I think, in Tanzania, a mother comes to me and said to me, Angelique, we've listened to you. We've put our girls to school. Primary school is pretty much going to end pretty soon. But what is the future hold for them? You know that if they finish primary education and they are not in school, they're going to end up in early marriage, early pregnancy, what we've been through. Education can prevent that. That's when I come up with the idea to start, to be the first to start in secondary education, pretty much. And 2007, Batonga was founded, and we decided that we're going to target the girls that come from extreme poverty background. Orphans of both parents or one, orphans of HIV/AIDS, give them tuition, uniform, books, 1 meal a day, tutoring, and mentoring. Because the mentoring program is really important. When you're not there, somebody has to be the one that reply and answer for the needs in case of emergency before they email me or call me. And that phase is something that make the parent, put the parent at ease. They know who is who. And it's true that when I go to the countries, especially in my country, it struck me that more women come than father until last year when fathers start coming in. And the question was what? We want to see if it was legit, if it was you. Not somebody using your name and luring our kids to something else. And them realizing, the father, that educating the girls brings income not only to the village, to the community, but to the family. Educating girls in Africa have endless benefits, especially secondary education is a game changer. That's where you start having leadership building up to the kids. How they see themselves, the confidence they get. Because every time I go and see them, they're like, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. They have already lined up what they want to do. And that's what I want. I want those girls to be the best possible for their country, leaders in their own business, to take lead in their own life, not just to be at the mercy of decisions made by adults that just want to get rid of them, and to change the policies in their country. Because a girl, when a girl is born in Africa, has no identity. You belong to your father. They can marry you off with anyone he wanted to. They can change that. Those girls can transform that. Africa needs the girls' secondary education and tertiary education for our economy to boom, because the women invest better and differently.
Well, you are undoubtedly a change agent. You're a delight to talk to. Thanks so much for stopping by, Full Front. Coming up next, I'll be joined by another legendary songstress and UNICEF ambassador whose work is making a global impact. Judy Collins is an award-winning singer-songwriter. She's captivated audiences with her signature sublime voice and social activism for more than 4 decades. Her 1968 single, Both Sides Now, won a Grammy Award for Best Folk Performance, and in 2003, she was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. She's been called the voice of American folk music, and there's no disputing that she's deserving of the title.
Hello, my darling, what do you know? Open the door and come on in. I'm so glad to see you, my friend. You're like a rainbow coming around the bend. And when I see you happy, well, it sets my heart free. I'd like to be as good a friend to you as you are to me.
Since 1995, Judy Collins has served as a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador and has traveled extensively supporting projects around the world. She continues to raise funds for the UNICEF national committees. She donates proceeds from her concerts and royalties from guitar sales. The author of several books, she recently released her memoir, Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, My Life in Music. She joins us today to discuss her career, her activism, and her work with UNICEF. Judy Collins, welcome to Full Frame.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me.
I mentioned Both Sides Now. When you first saw those lyrics, heard them, did you just say, this is gold, this is going to be there for years and years and years to come?
Oh, yes, I did. And in fact, it was a funny way that I found the song, because it was 1967, and I was sound asleep up here on the Upper West Side, and my phone rang at 3 in the morning, and it was Al Cooper, who started the Blues Project and Blood, Sweat, and Tears. He had my phone number, and I often wonder what would have happened if he'd called Buffy or Joan B., you know. But he called me and he said, listen, did I wake you? And I said, you did, but so what's the big issue here? Why are you calling me in the middle of the night? He said, well, I'm sitting here with this singer-songwriter. I followed her home because she said she wrote songs, and then he put Joni Mitchell on, and she sang me Both Sides Now.
Oh, man, what an incredible moment.
And I said, well, let's see, I'll be over right away. And that's what happened. Of course, I recorded it immediately, and thank you to Joni Mitchell.
Rose and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air, feathered canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, and now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things I It's clouds, illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all.
So then, as we move along in time, you've had all these hits, and yet, when did you get the bug to be an activist, do you think? Because folk music kind of leads to that in a sense, doesn't it?
Well, yes, but that also came from my father, because he was very big on talking about everything. I mean, he was outspoken to the nth degree, and people who spoke out the way he did were often lost their jobs. I mean, somebody who talked about the McCarthy hearings in the way that he did on Denver radio, John Henry Falk was doing the same thing in Texas, and he got canned.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they didn't want to hear from him. But people adored my father, and because he was the kind of character he was, and because he cared about people, and he was very much a part of the community, they let him spout off on anything, and he did so at home or on the radio. And he always told us that we had to be part of the solution, and if we didn't vote, we had no say in anything. So I was really primed for that. And of course the 60s came along, and I always never thought of not opposing the war in Vietnam. My father used to talk about, Dien Bien Phu, and how, what are we doing over there? I mean, the French have just lost. What are we doing with advisors there? We're on a very bad path. So I was very much a part of my generation and a part of my own upbringing, and somebody who wanted to make a difference. But there was never any question that I would be involved, and that I would then take all those things that I'd gathered as a child, the discipline, the piano playing, the practicing, the way that I chose songs, which was the way that my father chose songs. And I had that background in my growing up, which was very much about discipline. And I started to perform at about 4 years old, very early age.
Wow. Do you think it's kind of a, because you have this position and this voice, is it a duty to call attention to things that you feel passionate about? I mean, especially given the fact that your father kind of raised you the way he did, or is that just kind of the making of a good folk singer?
Well, excuse me for saying well, I find that I say it more often than I would like to. There are reasons to develop a way of speaking about things. Well, if you're a writer and you write your pieces for the New Yorker, then you pay attention to what's going on in the world around you, whatever your profession is. And as a songwriter and a singer, I pay attention. I wrote a song about 9/11 that I feel very strongly about. I wrote a song because the first time I went to travel for UNICEF, I went to the former Yugoslavia, and I was the man who headed up UNICEF asked me to write a song about the situation with landmines and with children in the former Yugoslavia, which I did. So the song for Sarajevo came out of my two visits to Sarajevo and to that part of the world.
Well, so Sarajevo, do those images linger with you afterwards? The children, the landmines, the devastation?
Oh, very, very much. My husband and I, well, we knew nothing about landmines. They're not, somebody might find a mine from the Civil War that hasn't gone off, but of course they're very ancient, and the chances of their still being active are pretty slim. But we didn't know about landmines here. We went to Sarajevo, we went to Dubrovnik. Outside of Dubrovnik, we were taken to a little school where there was a lecture. The main concern was educating children about landmines, and UNICEF had just started a program of education for children, a kind of a psychological art program in which they had 7 lessons, and they would sit down and they would draw and paint, and the first 3 or 4 sessions would be nothing but fire coming out of the sky and bombs falling on houses and children running in agony from harm. And then by the time they got to the last session, they would be painting flowers, putting themselves in the picture. I mean, this is direct action on post-traumatic stress disorder. And these were children, little children, all ages. And people we were traveling with in UNICEF, members of UNICEF took us to a school, and there was a table at the bottom of this hall, and across the table were scattered mines, various kinds of mines, the most recent of which were plastic. Now we're talking about a world, we don't know it because we don't live there. In the rest of the world of martial conflict, there are millions of landmines. Of course, Vietnam is filled with them, 300 million, they think, alone in Vietnam. And on this table were scattered all these mines, and the most recent are made of plastic, and they're designed to look like candy wrappers and Coke bottles. UNICEF has been very hard to educate all over the world, and they've done a beautiful job of it, but still, of course things happen, of course people blow up. And if you've got 300 only, that's the very conservative, in one country alone, you've got millions of these things. Yes, well, so the vividness of the place and the things that people are struggling with, it's very real.
And what's great about this story, the example you gave, is somebody who's in the arts, who performs, to see how art can help these kids to kind of process and to move from the explosions to perhaps getting past the PTSD.
Yes, exactly.
Pretty incredible.
At the time I was there, I was friendly with the woman who was the president of DC Comics. She and I and the State Department and Hillary Clinton conspired to have DC Comics put out a comic book starring Superman. Now, everyone in the world knows Superman, even these children in dire straits living in close to poverty levels in many parts of the world, they know who Superman is. And so the design and the production and the distribution of this comic book was something that I was very happy to be any part of, and it was distributed to children and all over the world and helped them to understand that there were things they could do to protect themselves.
Explain for us the joy of being on stage and just knocking one out of the park and the adulation of the fans and walking off the stage. What's that sentiment like? What's the feeling like?
Well, first of all, every performance is different because it's always new, it's always fresh. Yes, there are sometimes repeated parts of your repertoire, things that you might have sung for 50 years if you're lucky. But there are new things going on. But the event itself is always new. It's always fresh. Different people, different date, different time, different place. I also truly believe that music, as in the case of art, can heal people. And I consider it a service. I consider the stress that goes through getting there a service. And when you do get there, you always think you're there for one reason, and then it turns out that it's a little different. The other night I was with the orchestra, the Portland Symphony in Portland, Oregon, conducted by a 24-year-old wonderful conductor. Norman Nguyen is his name. And the orchestra is magnificent. One of the songs that I sang is a song that I wrote about my mother called In the Twilight. She died about 4 years ago. And it is a song in which I've kind of put every loaded barrel I could find about who she was and what her life was like.
She's a lady, and she barely knows her name now. In the twilight as she sleeps, and her memories chase her down the days of childhood. There was music, always music, and her brothers. There was Robert, the captain of a freighter that sailed to China.
And I played it with the orchestra, and people came up to me afterwards in tears, and they said, things like, my mother just died last year, my mother's in hospice right now, I was so close to my mother, and I don't find a way that I can sort of mourn her, and the song helped me do that. You never know when that's going to happen. With a particular song that you're singing, that you've chosen to sing, and that you find healing and transformative.
And as you heard from the people there that night, obviously it's a gift to all of us, as are you. I can't tell you how many scratches there were on your albums growing up, but thank you so much. Fantastic talking to you.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
When we come back, more Star Power, working for the global good. She's been called the Oprah Winfrey of China. Forbes magazine named Chinese journalist and media entrepreneur Yang Luan one of the world's 100 most powerful women. In China, her name is practically synonymous with entertainment. She's the co-founder of one of the country's largest private media companies. And she's committed to creating programming that encourages the continuing growth of Chinese culture and offering an international platform for cultural exchanges. Her signature television show, Yang Luan One-on-One, has become China's longest-running talk show. In addition, she served as a cross-cultural ambassador for China, playing an important part in Beijing's successful bid for the 2008 Olympic Games. A dedicated philanthropist, she served as a UNICEF ambassador for China and has dedicated her own foundation to the growth of civil society. Recently, TV's Mei Li had a chance to sit down with the legendary Yang Luan at the 2015 annual meeting of the Clinton Global Initiative.
Yang Luan, thank you so much for your time. Of course, I appreciate you being here. For you, I know that some of the most important issues are about women, women empowerment and children's causes and health, areas of health. So tell me what it is that drives you to care about these causes that are of global importance.
Well, thank you. I started by thinking of my own show. 8 years ago, I started a new talk show called Her Village, and this is a women's show. So we combine storytelling with topic discussion. Well, that's kind of in the nature of a media person, right? But I was so inspired by these extraordinary women telling their stories, and also were fascinated by the topics that we are also engaged in. And also it's such a great platform to connect Chinese women and with the international communities. So it went on very naturally to be built into a cross-media community, both online, offline, traditional media, and new media for women's leadership and empowerment. And at the same time, we figure out that in this whole process of fast transformation of China, women are sometimes stressed out. They try to manage their career and then family and all sorts of different cultural expectations of them, and they cannot do it as only one individual. It takes a village. Also, it takes the engagement and partnership with men, so that we can support each other at the family level, institutional level, and social level. So 3 years ago, I started Her Village International Forum, for which both women leadership and women well-being are very important issues to be covered. We have international speakers to cover those subjects, to give women information, inspiration, and also building up a sharing community so that their self-generated content also become a part of the dialogue. So this is some of the things I've been doing for the past few years.
And we do know that women love to share. We love to have dialogue. We love to be able to try to come together as a group to try to empower each other.
Yes.
So it's great to hear that in China that's happening more and more.
Definitely.
And it's being received really well by women.
And technology and social media is only accelerated the whole process. During this year's forum, for example, within a week's of time, our social media site had more than 190 million hits.
Wow.
Well, that's how massive the reaction was. So we are also sending out free videos on the highlights of the speeches of all our speakers, and then organize discussions among our attendees as well as our audience. And also at the same time, we're teaming up with the top educational institutions like here Barnard College at Columbia University, Beijing Normal University, to curate programs for young women leaders, for their leadership training, for the well-being, self-knowledge, relationship kind of training, so that they can better adapt and lead the changes.
You were appointed UNICEF ambassador, the first Chinese UNICEF ambassador in 2010, right? I wonder, in the years that you were appointed, what kinds of changes have you seen in your work, not just with UNICEF, but obviously you're talking about the work that you're doing now. The country seems by the day, right, in so many ways.
Yes, well, the economic changes are very visible, but I think what is more fundamental is about the changes of our mindset about people. Or in the past, the Chinese government was a kind of ruling all and being responsible for everything. But then it's the upcoming of the market power and then the civic society, which are forming a stronger pillars of the society. In the year of 2010, my foundation, Sun Culture Foundation, co-hosted the Giving Pledge dinner with Gates Foundation. Both Bill and Warren Buffett were there in Beijing, meeting the top Chinese leaders in business and philanthropy. At that time, there were only about a dozen family background foundations. Now we have more than 2,000.
Wow.
So this is how everything is paced up, not just in the market and the economic side, but also on philanthropy and civic society building. More than 4 million NGOs have been growing up for the past decade or so. So it's extraordinary change.
And I find that fascinating because I covered the UN Women's Conference 20 years ago.
Okay.
And so social change, philanthropy, NGOs, those were still very unknown concepts, right? Very new. And I remember the Chinese being a little bit questioning, like, what is this all about? So it's great to see that there has been this sea change in the attitude of philanthropy and giving and charity, right?
Definitely. I remember because at the time I was studying in the graduate school of international and public affairs at Columbia University. So one night I got this call from Beijing saying you have to come back, for a short break because we need you to host the opening ceremony of UN Conference on Women. And this is by far the biggest international conference that Beijing has ever hosted. That was way before the Olympics,
right?
Things like that. So I rushed back and it was a great experience. At that time, Chinese people were not very much aware of the very concept of NGO. And through some of the news reporting, they thought that NGO people were kind of a little bit extremist, and they could do crazy stuff to catch attention. So actually, they prepared hundreds of sheets in case anything like a naked parade took place. So it just shows how alien, people felt towards NGO. But now the civic society is really growing. The crowdfunding on the internet, grassroots, community level NGOs are really growing very fast. So I'm very happy to see the changes.
It is wonderful to see, and you have to give credit to social media and how that's inspiring and changing behavior in China.
Yes.
Right, and I know you've talked about microblogging in China and how that creates a different community of voices to be more expressive,
That's
which
right.
again, in the past, maybe weren't permitted to do. So
That's right.
if you could just touch upon that idea.
Yes, of course. Well, by working in media, especially mainstream media like television, we knew that it was quite elite-oriented. There are a bunch of editors and journalists deciding which story goes first. But with social media and the internet, now everyone has a place to take their message out and give themselves their voices. And of course, you will find a little bit disorientation in the middle of this, but overall speaking, it's such a democratic process of the whole society. So now you see people talking about things like the environment issues, the women's rights issues on the internet quite openly, and you see more and more so a positive interaction between public policy and people's opinions. And you see NGOs are working with the government, forming this public and private partnership in the environmental monitoring, in the advancement of poverty relief, and many other things going on.
And I think with the youth, becoming more aware of these issues. That is probably pushing that forward even more. With your foundation, the Sun Foundation, that's Culture Foundation. That's obviously an area, you know, of development for you to also work on, right? To try to push these social issues and these cultural issues that are important for the future generations of China.
Yes, talking about future impact, nothing is more important and effective than education. What I have found, there are two issues in terms of education that I feel that I need to address to. One is that there's not equal access to education resources from the rural areas, urban areas, and we found that with those children who are coming into big cities with their working parents from the rural areas, they are the most vulnerable community which don't have access to high quality education. The second problem is that our very definition and understanding of education was very much knowledge and skill-based instead of, you know, liberal arts and you know, critical thinking nurturing. To try to address to those two issues, I and my colleagues in Sun Culture Foundation, we developed art educational programs for underprivileged children. We have enabled more than 30,000 children of migrant workers in Beijing to have regular music and art classes. We also organize more than a dozen performing troupes for those young kids so that they can, they sang to President Carter when he was in Beijing. They could get on the stage of National Performing Center Theater.
Right.
So a lot of things are really giving those children voices and also give them opportunities to realize their potentials.
Right, and be more creative.
Definitely.
Right. Young Lan, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Really, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, May.
We'll be right back with this week's Full Frame Close-Up. What happens when you pair one of the most decorated music producers in the world with a traditional Mongolian group? Well, the hope is the union will put the group Hangai on the international music map. Canadian Bob Ezrin is a musical genius, best known for producing albums with rock legends like Alice Cooper and Kiss. He even produced Pink Floyd's ageless masterpiece, The Wall. But Bob's chance meeting in China with the leader of Hangai has led to this unique collaboration. His task? To meld traditional Mongolian instruments, the ancient art of throat singing, with the driving electric guitars and the heavy metal edge the band loves. It's a unique sound, definitely worth a listen, that may make it onto your playlist. CCTV America's Sean Caleb's got exclusive access as the band and producer gathered in the studio.
The two-string lute, horsehead fiddle, and the unique art of throat singing. It's about as far from mainstream rock and roll as you can get. But the members of Hangai are finding their niche and making an international splash with a blend of ancient Mongolian music and, believe it or not, heavy metal.
We always performing in every different kind of music festival. We play in rock festival, heavy metal, world music. So that's not easy to say what kind of music for Hangai, because we play a lot of things.
And lots of different instruments. Ilalata, a left-hander, picked up a guitar and learned to play the only way he could figure out, upside down.
其实中间也想改变这样右手弹琴，但是已经适应了左手，所以一直这样。因为从小接触的音乐都是蒙古音乐，所以很多时候弹吉他的成分里面都有是蒙古音乐或者传统音乐的影子在里面。
He's my friend. Don't hurt him, please.
Many of the band members are from Inner Mongolia, and the band's roots extend to China's hinterland. And while even their clothes scream metal, as much as anything else, they want to stay in tune with their ancestors. Huraja is the group's lead singer.
Actually, 都在草原上。那么，过去小时候就是听，那个草原上老人还有年轻的那些艺人，就民间艺人，听他们唱歌。完了，那里面也有一些，完了在这样的环境影响了我到现在做这个蒙古音乐的基础。
Their songs are often about the grasslands, the wind, the environment.
That's a very, very beautiful place, but now why we write songs and sing a lot of songs is about we want people care of the environment.
A magnificent, vast expanse. The musicians in Hangai will tell you life in Inner Mongolia is harsh. Warm summer months are short. Winter drags on as punishing winds roar in, driving people to seek comfort in their traditional homes called yurts. But there is also this side of Hangai. It was this performance that elevated them to win a popular reality TV show contest in China called Sing My Song. Members say it really put them on the map in their home country.
Okay? Has he got cans? Coming?
The band is back in the studio, recording their latest album.
Okay? Okay. Let's go.
They've turned to this man,
Chop chop.
legendary producer
What do you need?
Bob Ezrin.
Shaka, brother. Good morning. Rock and roll. Yeah.
We don't need no education.
As a music producer, Ezrin's fingerprints are found on some of rock's iconic classics. Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare, Kiss, Destroyer, and one of the all-time great rock albums, Pink Floyd's The Wall.
But I saw them play, and just the sort of breadth of the material and the cross-pollination from ancient Mongolian traditions to modern heavy metal rock. It was like the weirdest thing I'd ever seen, and I thought to myself, boy, I'd really love to work with those guys. I like this performance. Yeah. Okay, so it's take one all the way, buddy.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Not long thereafter, a chance meeting with Ezrin and Hangai's frontman, Il Chi, at an event in Beijing.
I asked him, do you want to produce our band?
And I said, yeah, I'd love to.
Yes.
That led to this marriage of Hangai's music.
Cool. You'll slide him a little bit, right? Yeah.
And Ezrin's magic touch.
I could live with the DIs.
At Vader Studios in Vancouver, Canada.
See, she overshoots right here. Yeah, that thing. So if we can find a replacement for that, I'll be happy.
Many in the band have little grasp of the English language.
Sorry, I don't understand. Oh, okay.
And as for Ezrin,
this is the first time I've ever worked on something where I didn't understand one word, none.
就是完全一样的，他那个视频和音频他对不上，没法。
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. You know, I mean, I've been, I've worked in Croatia. I could pick up a little here and there in Italy and France and Spain, you know, but boy, Chinese is like, and because the inflections are different too, so you can't even pick up the context. Dead.
so it has developed into an exercise in trust.
That should be long enough.
Do naturally is really fascinating and brilliant and beautiful. All I'm trying to do is help them do it a little bit better, a little tighter. First thing was an acoustic guitar, which became an electric guitar, and then bass, and then drums, and then finally they built it back out to where, at its core and soul, it was essential Mongolian music. In a modern rock context. So for us, the big thing here is to not mess that up.
Hangai earned its chops as a live band, playing in front of crowds large and small. But recording in a studio is a different process.
Excellent. You're fired. Get out.
Thank you.
Okay.
It can be slow and tedious.
From take 3, it will be line 1. Okay, can we go, Benny? Yeah. No. Stop. What the Ben?
I lost my click. Is there no sound?
No sound. Carl! The other challenge in the studio with any band, regardless of where they start, is it's an artificial environment, right? It's a room with no windows and there's no audience, and it's very difficult. So the big thing about the studio is to try to create an atmosphere where there's enough electricity in the air and they're excited enough about what they're doing and they're enjoying it enough that you do get that performance.
反正现在我们目前为止这7个人一直很坚持的做这个涵盖。
Let's go, let's go. Okay, we have room for how many?
完了，现在形成一个涵盖自己独特的一个音乐模式。
They've all left Inner Mongolia and now work and live in Beijing. Back home, they've lost the beauty of being anonymous that comes with having your face plastered all over national TV.
对我来说，出名不是特别重要，但是跟以前相比的话，会影响我现在的生活，因为以前我也是一直坐地铁，现在坐地铁以后，可能好多人认识我，就是有一点影响我的自由的感觉。
But they are gaining fans.
So you have to stay here forever, okay?
Good.
All day today and tomorrow?
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
And with the nuance and experience that comes from working with Ezrin, they all hope their newest creation will lift them off YouTube and help them work their way onto more and more playlists. If not, they are proud of the road that they followed.
Okay. Did you see the bear? The bear said,
That's it for this week. Join the conversation with us on social media. We are CCTV America on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And now you can watch Full Frame on our new mobile app, available worldwide on any smartphone for free. Get the latest news headlines and connect to us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Weibo. Search CCTV America on your app store to download today. All of our interviews can be found online at cctv-america.com. And let us know what you'd like us to take Full Frame next. Simply email us at fullframe@cctv-america.com. Until then, I'm Mike Walter in New York City. We'll see you next time.